I had this idea that I wanted beautiful painterly type portraits of my kids with the Savior. Couldn't find a photographer who could do it. So I
Hmm.
said, I guess I have to be the one. And so I just hopped on good old Facebook and I said, who do we know that can do this for me? And it was like a friend of a friend of a friend. And they're like, my brother could probably do that.
Jesus land if they live righteously. It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall, and I'm excited because it's been a little bit since we've had some interviews here. Well, I'm excited for this interview because I just have to know all about this. Welcome in, Michaela Avalos. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
It's great. Michaela has no idea about the Cultural Hall, and so I'm excited for you to kind of get the tone and the feel of what we're doing here. How this episode came about was I have a news feed, a news fetcher that it's a Google app that says, "Are people talking about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And if so, why or how or whatever?" And it came up, and I think the title of the headline is something like, "In Utah, it pays to look like Jesus," or "It pays to have long hair and a beard in Utah." And then kind of like subtitle, "Jesus models are in demand." And I immediately went, wait, what? So that is what we are talking about in this episode. Michaela, thank you for agreeing, not knowing what you're getting into, but being willing to chat all about this.
Yeah, of course.
So let me ask you, what I read further and found out about is it instead of like kids getting their pictures taken with like Santa or sitting on Santa's lap, it's you had the idea with your own children. You wanted to get someone who looked like the Savior, and then did the. Tell me, where did this all begin?
Yeah. So I had this idea that I wanted beautiful painterly type portraits of my kids with the Savior. Couldn't find a photographer who could do it. So I
Hmm.
said, I guess I have to be the one. And so I just hopped on good old Facebook and I said, who do we know that can do this for me? And it was like a friend of a friend of a friend. And they're like, my brother could probably do that.
Yeah.
And
So was this a thing that you wanted to do with like your own kids, or someone came to you because you're a photographer by trade, or was that part of it too? You're like, listen, I want pictures with the Savior, so now I'm gonna have to learn how to be a photographer as well.
no, luckily I'd already been a photographer of 7+ years, but
Nice.
I knew I wanted these pictures, these painterly type portraits with my kids and the Savior, and I just could not find a photographer who did that. And so I said, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to be the one to do it. So I went to trusty old Facebook and put out an ad, just like, who can do this for me? And um there was quite a few volunteers, but I found a friend of a friend of a friend who even had apparel to bring from, I don't know, a nativity or something or another. And we just went out to Antelope Island and just wung it from there.
Now I gotta ask though, is it w was it an odd request? I would love to see, and maybe you have this or maybe not, but like, how do you phrase something like this? Like, hey all, this is Utah, so maybe it's not as weird as some other places, but hey, looking for someone who, did you say, "I'm looking for someone who could portray the Savior in some pictures," or were you like kind of vague about it because you wanted to be like, "Oh, long hair and a beard"?
You know what? I don't know. It's been a few years now. I'd have to go back and look, but knowing me, I probably was pretty straightforward, like, hey, who looks like Jesus? Let's go.
Yeah. And so then you obviously find someone, and it sounds like this particular individual had done it before, because to have the garb as part of it, or no?
No, they had never done it. I can't remember why they had apparel. I think it was just like, at Christmas time when you put on like nativities just
Sure.
for fun. I mean, and everyone just picks something and dresses up, and they happen to have just stuff laying around that they're like, I think this would work. And so, yeah, it did. And yeah, it was his first time.
Huh. There's so much of this that feels like so very Utah, because even the
Yeah.
statement of like, how we just do nativities and you happen to have those things. I know that there are
Everyone's
people
like,
elsewhere that are like, what? You just
wait,
happen
no
to,
one
what?
has that stuff on hand.
Yeah. So tell me this about that. Why was it important, or what? You certainly had the idea, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but why was it important for you to be like, "Hey, kids, let's go take some pictures and let's have this individual be a part of that photo shoot"?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of Christian artwork out there.
Hmm.
And when I was looking for something for my home, nothing was just like quite clicking. Like, what do I want on my wall?
Hmm.
And it was just a way to have it be more personalized, more like more sacred to me as an individual.
Right, right. And then you get it done, you do it, and where you like immediately you're like, "This is everything that I wanted," or where you're like, "Nah, I don't know," like what you get
I,
it done.
no, it was rewarding and the images turned out incredible. And I just posted them because I was proud of them and I liked this experience that we had,
Hmm.
not thinking anything of it. And like the floodgates just opened and everyone was like, how do we do this?
Wow.
And it just kind of kickstarted from there. And I had like a waiting list of people like in line to have this experience.
It's a thing that I think that if you would have sat down and been like, "Let me brainstorm some really great business ideas," you would have never come up with something like this, and that's what I love about it.
No, you're right. And at first it almost I had to like question like, is this okay?
Hmm.
Because I'm like profiting off of like my faith. And it was a weird balancing act at first of feeling like, is this not ethical? That's not the right word, but is this okay?
But let me ask you this: I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, some people would come at you and say things like a priestcraft, or you're profiting off the savior or something like that. I'm sure where these
Right.
things have been on the internet, you have heard all of that and more.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I mean, you're just doing it because it was nice. Was it friends and family that came out of the woodwork and said, "Let's do it," or was it like strangers on the internet that were like, "Michaela, I've got to do it. When can we go out and do this thing?"
Yeah, the first time it was kind of friends, and then when I saw that, okay, this could actually make me some money, I put out an ad, and now it's people I've never met or seen in my life coming.
Uh, are a lot of the people, these are just the curiosities. As soon as I saw this, I have so many questions. So I'm so grateful that you're willing to talk about it. Are a lot of the people, I mean, if this is Utah, are a lot of the people LDS that you find doing it? Is it broadly Christian based? Like, who are the
I
clientele?
I actually think less LDS people are drawn to this, and I think it's because of the tabooness maybe of trying not to push the line of sacrilegious.
Uh-huh.
So I think I actually get more of the broader Christian sects than just LDS.
And uh, how do you? Because one of the things that as I love comments on news articles, and that is where like the worst of worst and best of best people live. But like one of the things that I know a lot of people are like, all these people are white bearded, long haired men. That's not what if Jesus was even real, that's not what he would look like. Like how do you go about these models? Because it seems like being a believing person that
Mhm.
you wouldn't like there would be some sort of selection process because you wouldn't want to be like hello pseudo Jesus, please put that bottle of alcohol down, let's go take some you know what I'm saying, like what's the
Yeah.
selection process for those that you'll work with?
You know what? It's actually funny that you say this because when it was just for me and my kids, I didn't think too much of it. I was like,
Hmm.
great, looks good. You fit the bill.
Hmm.
And then when it was at a broader scale, there was a lot of hate coming into my comment sections of this is not even historically accurate. Why is your Jesus white?
Hmm.
Yada, 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 yada.
Sure.
And it was around that same time that the model I was using needed to start shaving for work.
Oh.
And he was no longer even available for me to use. So I went back to the drawing board looking for a new model, and I actually hired a Lebanese man
Hmm.
who came. And so he fit the script.
Hmm.
Um, and we did our shoots with him, uploaded those shoots to advertise more. And guess what? It was the same thing. Like he wasn't brown enough. He wasn't this enough.
Yeah.
Like, so you know what? Regardless, people are just gonna have their opinions.
Sure, sure. And the internet's really great, unfortunately, about giving people the platform to share those opinions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, do the models? Is it just a particular? So this Lebanese gentleman who you've been working with, is it just him, or are you like if people lived in Utah and they're like, people say that I look like what? culture would adopt? Like, are you, this is a weird phrase, but like, are you accepting other Jesus people?
You know what? I'm open. I'm open to it. I've got a good thing going with the guy I'm using right now just because we're comfortable with each other.
Sure.
But ever since that Wall Street Journal was or that Wall Street Journal article was posted, I have had, oh, 6 people now reaching out saying, I want to be your next model.
Hmm.
One even as far from Italy, and one from New York, one from California, sending me pictures. One guy said, I'm considering moving to Utah to make this my full-time gig. And I said, oh, honey, I hate to break it to you, but I'm not going to be the one to fulfill this dream. It's not that busy. That article was a little misleading.
Do you, and hopefully this isn't an inappropriate question to ask as far as that goes, but is it expensive to go out and do a shoot with Jesus and my children? Which is a question I never thought I would ask out loud like that. But
Yeah, it's kind of ranged, and I've done it a couple different ways, and I've had to adjust because it's not really a market I can compare with because it's not available.
sure.
It's not relevant. But yeah, I've done like minis that are in like the 250 range, or I've done like what I call the excursion, like my excursion with Christ, where it's like a whole evening where groups are coming down and stopping at different areas and taking their photos. And that's closer to like five, six, $700 range. So I try to cater to like what I can.
Hmm. And I imagine it probably pays what, like $100 or $200 to be to the
To
model,
be
I
the
would imagine.
model, yeah, I'm giving him like 125, $150 an hour. So he'll
Yeah.
walk away with like $300 for the night.
Incredible. And is it mostly parents like what you kind of sought out to do, where it's like, I would really love this symbology of my kids with the Savior? Or are you also getting adults that are just like, yeah, it's me. I'm gonna be walking with the Savior for these photos.
Yeah, yeah, all of the above. We get a lot of kids, we get a lot of whole families,
Uh-huh.
but I've had individuals who are like, I just want a picture of me holding the Savior's feet. That's all I want. I just want me holding the Savior's feet or me hugging the Savior. And I said, you got it.
You know, some people when they talk about these types of things, they'll talk about that whether it be inspiration or like, you'll hear the phrase where people will say, uh, I definitely feel called of God to be doing this at this time. Has there been that element of like spirituality or like promptings as you've been doing this? Or has it been, no, this is a great thing that came up and making a little money while it is?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's my calling, but I would say that every time I've done it, it's been rewarding and less so even for me than the reaction I get from my clients that come back and are just like, this is my most prized possession.
Hmm.
And as a photographer, whether Christ is in your photo or not, that's like the best reaction you can get.
Also, some element of like responsibility, I would think, falls on you for this too, because savior of the world, for any Christian believing person, there's a respect and a weight that kind of goes to that. How do you balance that, or what do you think about that? And how has that changed maybe from, oh, this is my kids and this guy to where you're at now?
Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. It's a balancing act because it it's it's odd because when you're going here, these kids don't know my model's name is Nate.
Hmm.
They don't know Nate. They just see Jesus.
Hmm.
And I'm like in a field back here, like, look at Jesus. And sometimes it feels like, oh man, what are we doing here? But but it's all in good spirit. And the kids most of the time have a really good time with it. If the kids don't like sitting on Santa Claus's lap, though, they're typically not gonna enjoy this either.
And have there been other people who have come to you and have said, "Hey, great, I want to partner with you, and let's make this a bigger thing"? I would imagine once you have a great idea, that you get copycat people all the time, and other people who are like, "Yep, here we go." What has that response been like?
Yeah, maybe I was blind to it because I wasn't doing it, but I did not see the market for this prior to
Mm.
me starting it. And now it does seem like it's popping up here and there, here and there. I
Hmm.
don't know if I'm a trendsetter. Maybe I'm a little prideful to think maybe I could have been. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I'm seeing it more prevalent now. Um, I haven't had anyone want to partner with me specifically, but I have people been like, "Hey, who is your model?" And I've always been like, "Oh, he's mine. He's exclusive to me," except for this one time because there was a photographer with a terminally ill child,
Oh, wow.
and they were in a bind, like, "We need a model." And I said, "Okay, I will share with you. But don't
Yeah.
tell anybody."
Yeah. Uh, it also begs the question, do you call it a particular thing? Is this arm of your business like I've been sort of racking my brain for a very sort of clever, almost pun-based kind of connection, or is it just, Michaela Avalos is the one who takes pictures with the Savior?
Yeah, maybe I should think about it more, but I haven't. I mean, I call my short sessions our walk with Christ. They're my walk with Christ sessions,
Hmm.
and my long sessions are called my excursion with Christ. So, yeah, I haven't branched off and made it like its own entity, but that's we just call it that.
And married, you're married?
I am.
So you go to the spouse and they're like, "Hey, so the Wall Street Journal just called. What is the reaction been from like family and spouse and all that? How have they received all this?"
It's just apprehensive because this is something that's near and dear to me.
Hmm.
And, over the years, I have seen the backlash on social media. And
Hmm.
so when a particular group approaches, it's just like go with caution. I've had several reach out to me since then, and I've just been the same thing, like give me a little bit more details on what you want to talk about. And they're like, well, it's a discussion, and that's for me to know and for you to find out. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
probably not gonna entertain that one.
BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Uh-huh. Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the cultural hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. BestDJinUtah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. BestDJinUtah.com. Have there been any sort of bad characters that have wanted to do photos and then they pay for your time and they want to do things that you're like, we're not doing that?
Um, no, it's all been it's been pretty standard, or respectful. I also am good at taking charge though, so I don't have a lot of requests. I think most people come and just trust that I'm gonna, pose and do it the way they've seen and like.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has made me a cynic as far as that goes, that here you are just trying to share your faith in these photos and stuff like that. And then, a group of ill-intentioned folks would be like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then, put it in a situation that would be unfortunate. So I'm grateful to hear that that hasn't been the
Wow.
case.
That
Uh,
hasn't. I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, geez, I'm asking all sorts of questions. Let me ask you this. Is it something that you plan to continue with everything that's come from the Wall Street Journal? Or are you like, yeah, let's go. Here we go. Maybe raise prices a little bit. What has, since that article has come out, you mentioned things coming in with different models. What other things have you started to do differently because you realize, oh, hey, this is a whole thing?
Yeah, no, I've gotten my next session in the works. I've got a waiting list going. It wasn't on my radar to set up another one yet, but we've gotten some requests in, so we are gonna get that next one set up and we'll keep it rolling as long as we can. My model's starting to get old, starting to get a few more grays, and I'm having to do some more touch-ups up in post that I didn't used to have to do 5 years ago.
So how
So
long
I mean,
ago, how long ago was this that you started it then?
it was like 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, COVID era, just trying to be creative and go do something.
Isn't that incredible? The way that something like that, you're like, hey, let's go. And now it can be all that it is. Um, I think it is amazing to try it. And like you mentioned, there will be people that will constantly be coming after you. He's too light, he's too dark, he's not tall enough, he wasn't a man. Like there's all I'm never surprised about anything that I'll take away
Yeah.
from the internet. But I would be curious, you mentioned kind of that story where a friend said, hey, we've got a terminally ill individual. What has been your favorite experience as you have done this? And if it's inappropriate to have names be a part of it, I don't need to know those individuals, but I would love to know an experience where you're like, yeah, this is the thing right here.
Um, my favorite has to be just my first experience with my own children, because how could it not be? And I have this really, really neat picture where they're out on the water of Antelope Island where it's really shallow. So it looks like they're walking on water.
Hmm.
And he's holding my child's hand, and the sun is coming right between their faces. So you can't see faces. You can, but it's very obvious that it's the Savior. And I love that photo because regardless of how you picture your Jesus,
Hmm.
he fits the script because you can't see his face. And whatever your vision of Jesus is, that guy is it.
Well, and I also thought about all the people that would be naysaying something like this, and I just think, you know what? If this works for you or for whoever the potential you is that would hire you, right? And this is a way that they can bring Christ into their home and have discussions, because I probably for some kids, depending on age, there is that conversation where it's like, Nate is not actually Jesus. We probably need to establish some level of that. But to be able to have these children picture themselves with the Savior, I think it's super powerful. I'll be honest with you. When I first read it, like just barely the headline, I went, what? And then I went, man, people will try and make a buck anywhere. And then I went, no, this is great. To the people that really want something like this and to be able to have it be a visual representation of the air quotes savior in their home, what a
Mhm.
cool thing. And it's not for everyone. I can
No.
imagine a lot of people that are like, no thanks, Tom Hanks, let's not do that. But to be able to have that kind of representation within their home, super cool.
Yeah, yeah, I've yet to have anyone from my own extended family want to participate. So it's not it's not for everyone, but I love it in my home and my kids really love it.
They're just like, okay, Michaela, weirdo. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's Michaela.
do you also get, I would be curious from people in the church, like, did you feel, because there is sort of this weird zone, are you like, all right, Bishop, I just want to check in. I want you to know, I know it's not Jesus too, but talk to me about like the exchange with any sort of religious anything.
Yeah, I didn't ask any permission from the
Hmm.
bishop. Um, but I mean I just tread light. I try to make light of it. Like, oh yeah, this is what I do. I
Hmm.
mean, I just keep it light because otherwise it's just I'll eat myself up about it if I care too much what others are thinking about it.
Yeah. Do you so also, and you don't know this, but when we talked about this initially in one of our news episodes, we mentioned Del Parson, whether or not you know who that individual is. He's the painter who did, when you probably think of the Jesus that you would see in an LDS chapel, the red robe. That's the
Yes.
artist that did that. He, in one of our very first episodes back in 2011, said that I would be a great model for Judas. Are you opening up the idea to other, like, would you ever do anything else besides like a walk with Judas is a little odd, but would you be open to like if someone was like, mother, or Mary, the mother of Jesus, like, would you do things like that, or are you strictly like, I'm gonna stay in this lane, this niche, this?
I feel like I like to do what I know,
Hmm.
and I want people to hire me because they like what I do. So I don't see myself branching off that far. I guess if there was a really special circumstance and they really wanted to pay me, but I would probably do it. But where I have things set up, I have like a lot of groups at once just to make it efficient and also profitable
Hmm.
and time efficient for my model. And so I don't see the market there lining up
Yep.
quite the same.
You mentioned kind of the water shot. Are there other like things that people would go, oh, cool. You mentioned a field, I think. Are there other like scenes that you find people wanting to be depicted? I would imagine maybe like a stone that then the child could sit on the savior's lap, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is why I love going to Antelope Island because there's nowhere else that quite gives that old Jerusalem feel where you just have like sandy desert look, but you have the water, you have these rock formations that people are being able to kind of like tuck up into. And so that's definitely my most highest requested location. It's a tricky location though because it's either freezing or there's a bajillion bugs.
Hmm.
So timing it right, we do it either early spring or late fall.
So there's still room to get in on your next session if people are hearing this and going, man, this is the thing. I want this so much. I saw that. I didn't know that she was a local Utah person. How would they reach out to you, or do you have a website? Tell me all that stuff.
Yeah, you can reach out to me any sort of way. Facebook, Instagram, my website, avakstudio.com. And we'll get you put on that waiting list.
That's awesome. I'm contemplating in my mind coming out and doing it. For some reason, there's as I've thought about this, I just think it would be kind of a fun thing. I don't know that I will or that I won't, but the idea of being like, okay, I talked to her, let's see how I feel about this. I'm jury's still out as far as that goes.
Well,
So,
you would be welcome.
oh, good to know. You're not going to turn me away. It's like, why is there a picture of Judas and the Savior? That's weird. What a weird thing that was.
You come
Michaela,
for us.
there are three questions that we ask everyone who steps into the cultural hall, and I would like to ask those of you now. The first question is do you have a calling? And if so, what is it?
I do, and I am the primary chorister.
Oh, that's cool. One of by far the most like sought after callings, I think, within the church.
Oh man, it's been a big transition for me. I have always been the primary pianist or the choir pianist, and I like that. I like being behind the piano, but still important. Or I
Hmm.
like being behind the camera,
Hmm.
but not in front of it. So it's been a little different stepping out, but I'm growing to love it.
If you heard that, she clearly does not love it yet, but is growing to love it. I read right through what you just said. If you could pick a calling for yourself, either one that exists or make one up, what would you pick?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I would like the one where you just sit in Relief Society and don't have to have responsibilities. What's that one called?
Just membership. I don't know. Everyone, we all have responsibilities, ministering or otherwise, but to just sit and attend.
I want to sit and I want my kids to not be around and just enjoy the peace and quiet of the Sabbath.
Yeah, yeah. The non-existent, impossible calling. Okay, I'll take
That
it.
one. I made it up.
Yes, yeah, and I said you could. The final question we ask everyone, we ask you to interpret it however you may. But the question that we ask is, what is your favorite part of your faith?
My favorite part of my faith. Oh man, that's a hard one too. My favorite part is just how individual it really is. I think we so much get caught up in a right or a wrong way of this and that, and the gospel is really simple. And my relationship with Christ might look different than yours, but that's why it's my favorite because it's my relationship with the Savior.
Ah, I love it. I love every bit of it. People can find links. We'll leave them in the show notes for this episode. So if they want to book that with you, they have further questions, or maybe they're thinking about moving to Utah from Italy and want to be your next model, we'll let you filter all that out. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. I'll send them your way. And who knows, if I end up doing the photo, a walk with Christ, I may just share those photos with folks. There's a certain part of it to me that really just intrigues me. So who knows? We may be fighting the mosquitoes of Antelope Island one of these days pretty soon and be able to do that. Michaela, I hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body, that if you are not healthy enough to listen this week, that you will be healthy enough to listen next week, and that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you on the back row of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat. Oh.